Welcome to Hospitality Insider, another episode. Today's special guest is Adam Weissenberg, Vice Chairman at the Deloitte Touche. Hi, Adam.
Hey, Koni. How are you?
Thank you so much for being here today.
My pleasure.
And you have so much great stories in hospitality industry you can share with the audiences. So let's go first. And what is the Deloitte Touche does to the hospitality industry?
Sure. So my role is I head our travel, hospitality, and leisure practice. And so the way we define it is all the way from airlines, hotels, restaurants, casinos, sports.
Oh, yes.
And so in my role, you know, I help our firm deliver our services, which are audit, tax, consulting, and valuation, U.S. and globally. And so I've been with Deloitte now about 22 years.
Wow.
Yeah, goes quickly. And been in this role now for about 8 years.
Yes.
So
what is that you enjoy most that working in the, you call THL,
THL
right?
practice.
Right.
You know, for me, it's been, you know, the experience of helping to grow this practice. When I joined the firm 22 years ago, we really didn't focus on it. It was a small piece of our real estate practice.
Right.
And so I've had the opportunity to, you know, really spend time working with our partners and growing this practice from nothing to where we are today, where we're, you know, one of the leading professional services firms serving the industry.
Right.
And so that's been really exciting.
Yeah.
And, you know, you meet so many great people, work with so many wonderful clients, going across that, and that's what gets me excited.
Yeah, exactly. So I know that you went to Cornell University for hotel and restaurant.
Right.
And so you must have that hotel industry in mind even before you got into Deloitte Touche. So where did that come from?
So, it's a long story, but I'll make it short. So, when I was young, my dad was a professor, and we went on sabbatical overseas.
Yes.
And so we were traveling all over Europe, and I just got excited about hotels. And so when I came back to the U.S., I would always, you know, go look in lobbies. I remember going to Atlanta and visiting, you know, the Hyatt Regency for the first time, one of those big hotels with the atrium. And so my dad was a Cornell grad and said, well, if you're really interested in the industry, there's this hotel school up at Cornell, and, you know, that's what you should strive towards. And so I went to school with the idea I'd always be a hotel general manager. And so when I graduated, I actually worked for Marriott and decided I didn't want to be a hotel general manager very quickly. I ran a restaurant for a little while. I was in food service, and then I said, you know, let me do something else, and got my MBA and joined Deloitte. And it's been on the accounting and auditing side is where I started.
Yeah, so that's the last 22 years.
Yeah, it's been 22 years. Crazy.
Yeah, so what are your customer base? Who are they?
So we serve, you know, mostly, you know, starting with the large, you know, multinational companies. So we do work for pretty much almost all the major hotel brands, from, you know, whether it's auditing, whether it's tax, whether it's consulting, you know, Marriott, Starwood, Hilton, Hyatt, you know, Accor. I could go on and on across the hotel space. And so, you know, I'm lucky that we've, you know, built such a nice customer base that I get to deal with a lot of these companies on a regular basis.
Yes. So can you describe and maybe a story of a success, that how you take some occasions into very successful result?
Yeah, so with us, since we do so many different things, you know, it's hard to pick one, but, you know, myself personally, you know, my background was in the audit, and so I have a CPA. I got involved early on with Cendant when they started to spin across, they spin apart. And so I was the partner who helped Wyndham, you know, file and become public. And so I spent time, you know, and to me that was a great experience because, you know, taking a company and, you know, helping them become public in a standalone company, you spend a lot of long nights, weekends for many months. But you really, you know, some of my best friends now are at Wyndham because I spent so much time with them, and you know, they've been so successful since then. You know, I like to think I was part of that story and helped them get there. And you know, that's the kind of things we do, you know, on a regular basis. Yeah,
that's a really gratitude, you know, to have that kind of thing. So, Adam, share a little bit about your personal life. You have a big family?
I have a small, well, I guess it's relevant. I have 2 daughters, and so one's a freshman in college and one's in 10th grade in high school. And so my older daughter wants to be an actress, so good luck on that one. And my younger daughter is, you know, playing golf, playing volleyball, and, you know, lives at home. I'm from New Jersey. I grew up in upstate New York, actually, and so been married also about 22 years now. I got married right when I was in business school. Same time.
Yeah,
so my wife's from the Washington area. Used to be a banker, but, you know, now spends her time, you know, mostly with our daughters. So,
that's
well, plus a bunch of other things.
Yeah. Nobody else in the accounting and finance business?
Not yet. We'll see.
Yeah, no.
My younger daughter maybe will go into the hotel. She seems interested.
Yeah.
So my older daughter had zero interest.
No, she wants to be actress. That's
yeah,
great.
well, for now. So let's see.
That's great.
I hope she has a backup plan.
Yeah.
So
now, what do you see is the biggest challenge personally and as a company in Deloitte Touche?
So personally, for me, I've been in this role now, I told you, 8 years, right? And so I've really, over the 22 years, ridden the journey of creating this practice. Now it's time for me to start thinking about a successor. And so for me, that's one of the biggest challenges. I've been the face of Deloitte as we've built our practice, but it's Deloitte's practice. It's not Adam Weissenberg's practice. And so I need to get that next person. And so I'm spending a lot of time now grooming and figuring out who's going to be my successor to take us, the next 22 years with the firm. That's a big one. For us as a firm, it's great success in the U.S., but the growth is going to be outside the U.S. And we're a bunch of separate firms who work together. So trying to get us all cohesive on the same page, to know who to call, to be focused on the right things, big challenge. We just had our we have every 2 years a global THL meeting we just had in Florida, and it was great. We had 70 partners from representing like 20 different countries, but everyone gets excited for a weekend and then they leave and they go back to their day jobs. So the challenge for us is, how do you keep that excitement? How do you get people involved in THL? How do we deliver the same service, outside the U.S. and Southeast Asia and Asia and South America and Africa? When I'm not there every day to hit them over the head and say, okay, this is what we need to do. So that's a big one.
Okay, hold that thought.
Okay.
And when we come back, we're going to hear marvelous stories about what he is doing today to prepare this wonderful growth in the hospitality industry. Don't go away.
Hello, I'm Vanessa Cinders, Senior Vice President for Government Affairs at American Hotel and Lodging Association, and you're watching.
And you're watching.
And you're watching.
And you're watching.
You're watching Koni TV.
Koni TV.
Koni TV.
KoniTV.tv. Koni TV is the hospitality TV company, and we're very excited to be part of Koni TV.
Welcome back to Hospitality Insider with Adam Weissenberg, Vice Chairman at Deloitte Touche. Adam, thank you so much for sharing your stories. And now let's take a look at what is your initiative for this upswing, great industry that's coming up.
Yeah, so our focus historically has been primarily on audit and tax, which are some of our core practices. Our growth, looking into the future, is much more around consulting. And so we've been investing a lot in growing our consulting practice. And so when I say that, we advise companies on strategy and operations, on technology, on human capital, and those are clearly some of the areas that a lot of our clients are facing challenges around these days, especially as they grow. And so I see, for us aligned to what their needs are, we need to grow more on our consulting side, and we've been hiring people, and we bought a consulting practice that specialized in strategy recently, and so to me, that's going to be the growth for us.
Okay, so you service globally, right?
Yes.
And so, do you travel a lot?
I travel all the time.
Yeah, just all the time.
I probably travel about 70% now. It's a little too much. I liked it better. It was like 50. So.
And so, what is your success stories? What do you advise to anyone that in business that how to grow their ROI?
Yeah, I think now, we're spending a lot of time talking to customers, and where this started was with loyalty. We did a study last year on building brand loyalty, and what we found is, unfortunately, there wasn't a lot of brand loyalty being created in the hotel industry, and I don't think that's a surprise to anyone. So the question is, how do you do that, and how are you going to get customers to feel very strong about your brand? Other industries do that. I mean, if you say Coke or Pepsi, someone feels very strong about that. So we're spending time working with companies to say, how are you going to own your customer? What are you going to do? That involves technology, that involves training, that involves loyalty, and think about all these, suites of services, that you have to create, so that going into the future, you're going to own your customer, and they'll feel very strongly about your brand. That is an area that we think, is really important these days.
Now you talk about loyalty. That there's a lot of points in every brand. and everybody has it now. And I just wonder, do they really make money with that loyalty programs?
That's the great question. And so, what our survey showed is that, people aren't that loyal, and they're members of multiple loyalty programs. And so, I would kind of say probably not. On the other hand, it's become table stakes for many of the big brands, and I get that. If they don't have a loyalty program, they're at a competitive disadvantage.
That's right.
But going forward, people want personalized experience, and particularly when you look at some of the demographics now, the younger travelers and the millenniums and what they're looking for, it's all about personalized service. They want to feel unique. They want to feel like, the hotel or the brand is paying particular attention to them. And, that's going to be a lot different than just having some kind of a generic loyalty program.
Well, yeah, we talk about so much about tech-savvy millennials. So what is your overview of that? Do you really think they're going to dominate a lot of income to the hotel?
Absolutely, and we're starting to see that already. I mean, they enjoy going to hotels. They like having nice stays, but they're also very tech-savvy. And their experience, I'm the last year of the baby boomers. I go to my room, I go to sleep. They want to go sit in the lobby, be around other people, maybe not even talk to anybody, but they like being in that social environment and have Wi-Fi and availability. And they're really, looking for a lot more instant gratification. I mean, I just see that with the people who work for us. After they've spent 6 months with me, they're like, what's next? I told you I've been with the firm 22 years. It's like, it's a long journey. For them, it's 6 months. It's like, oh, what else are you doing for me? And so, I think the industry's got to be ready to respond to a much different traveler who's, really looking for instant kind of gratification, instant recognition, and it's going to be a big shift.
Right. So there are so many hotels, it's not really ready for them. So what is your advice how they can turn their hotel to receive those millennials and make money?
Yeah, and it's not easy because the way our industry is set up, where we have you have owners and operators and franchisees, and we all have slightly different views of what our ROI should be. But I do think the industry needs to come together, and a lot of this is technology. I mean, being able to take all this data that you have about your guests and then use that so someone checking them in or somebody sending a tweet can instantly know that, oh, this person's been ordering turkey club sandwiches all the time, right? So you want a turkey club when you get to the hotel. And so there's so many things, but a lot of that's going to involve investment. And so I think the industry has to do that. There's a lot of discussion around, they don't really own the customer. That's what it's going to take to own the customer, create a personalized experience.
That would be a really great challenge.
Oh yeah,
isn't it?
Yeah.
And so, do you see there's a trend that in the industry that Deloitte and Touche needed to put yourself into?
Yeah, and then it's going back to loyalty. We kind of last year said, okay, probably the #1 issue for the industry is talent, and that will be. I think the WTTC, World Travel and Tourism, put out. Over the next 10 years, there'll be a demand. For 70 million additional jobs.
Isn't that
crazy
something?
Numbers. Crazy numbers. Most of that in Southeast Asia or in Asia.
Right.
Think about the training and attracting, and so clearly that's a big focus for I think CEOs. But we said, well, what else is on their mind? And the brand experience and loyalty is very important, and so that's why we said, okay, why don't we take a point of view on that? Maybe somewhat controversial. Maybe some of the brands weren't thrilled with what we said about it. Maybe some of the owners weren't thrilled with what we said about it, but we wanted to stake a point of view, and so we've been spending a lot of time talking to our customers about that and our clients, and saying, okay, well, let's talk about how we can help you and we can move forward and help you to create that brand loyalty.
Yeah, that's perfect. So before we go next segment, can you share a little bit of your opinion about sustainability?
Yeah, I mean, so I think sustainability is becoming more and more table stakes within the industry, and for a while it was a topic I was talking a lot about, and it's trying to move people and say this is important. I think now it's just assumed that you have to be broader than that, even a good corporate citizen, active in your community, and thinking about sustainability. And I think going back to our millennium travelers, I think they expect that of companies, and I think they will. Walk somewhere else and choose to stay somewhere else if they feel that the companies they're working with are not doing that. I think it's very important to them.
So it's a habit.
Yeah, it's a habit and a table stakes. So,
Well, hold that thought.
Okay.
When we come back, we're going to see what is their future plan at Deloitte and Touche, and we are with Adam Weissenberg, Vice Chairman of Deloitte and Touche.
This is Ken Salyer with Tricus, and I want to thank you for watching.
You're watching.
Thanks for watching Koni TV.
Koni TV.
Koni TV.
Watch it every day for the latest hospitality news, hospitality trends, or whatever you desire to find out in the hospitality industry.
Come join us now at konitv.tv.
Welcome back to Hospitality Insider with Adam Weissenberg. At Deloitte Touche, one of the top 5 consulting companies in the world. Hi Adam, thank you so much for all the great insights. And now let's talk about what is the future plan of Deloitte Touche and this upcoming great era of the economic upswing.
Yeah, so I mean, first, looking at the economy, I agree with you. I think we are heading into a period of good things happening, coming out of 2008, 2009. And I think a lot of that's also when you look all around the world, we're starting to see more economic upturn, obviously continuing in Asia. Europe seems to be this flattening, rebounding. Hopefully South America will continue to grow. So for us, the focus is clearly on becoming more of a global company. We've made a great footprint in the U.S. and we won't forget about that, but it's looking at the rest of the world and really growing our global practice because that's where the growth for our clients will be.
Right. So you mentioned that the obvious BRIC, but you said there's a lot of opportunity beyond that. So can you elaborate a little bit about what your view is, how you see it?
Yeah, sure. So, I've had the pleasure of traveling, pretty much around the world this last year. I was just in Macau and Tokyo. I was in Singapore. I was in Rio. Been to Europe a bunch of times. I was in the Middle East, and so you really get to see what's going on. And so, not to say that there still aren't opportunities in the BRIC, and particularly in China with an 8% growth. I mean, I think if you don't have a strategy around China right now, you're in trouble, right? So, and ourselves included. And so that's the #1 focus. But then when you look beyond that, clearly India is going to be on the rise, and I think Southeast Asia is very important. I'm actually heading out there in March to meet with our leader of our practices in Singapore and talk about a strategy for that region.
Oh, okay.
And then you look into the rise and you look at places like Africa, where we have a nice practice in South Africa, but we really haven't expanded through the rest of the continent. And there's so many people there, and the birth rates there are so large. There's going to be young people. There's going to be manufacturing. It's a kind of the workforce of the future. I really see that as 20 years, 50 years, it's coming. And so, you always got to be thinking into the future. I mean, not to say there's not growth in Europe and America, but this is where the opportunities for probably
isn't that something? The whole
amazing.
world is going to be one.
It
And you mentioned something about Cambodia. That was a really kind of a eye-opening. And so share with us a little bit about what you see in Cambodia.
Yeah, I haven't been there personally, so this is all secondhand, but I do think from a tourism point of view, it's got some wonderful places to visit, and in particular, lots of history, and in particular also around there you have Vietnam, which is another place that's opening up to tourism, and they've added some gaming, and people love to visit that region. So I think it'll be interesting to see, as people travel more and more around the world, where they choose to go. They want to see everything. And so, the Chinese traveler is going to be huge also, and particularly when they become more and more outbound travelers.
So with all this growth that's happening all over the world, what is your advice to the investors? Growing is one thing, but making money is the other. So what is your advice to the investors?
So for investors, clearly you have to look and find companies that are global in nature. And I think, right now, if you look at a lot of the hotel companies out there, the valuations are relatively high, and that's because I think there's a lot of optimism in our industry. And so I think, investors value that. I think people love to travel, people love to visit places, and so our industry is always going to continue to have that, and I think the companies in it are good ones to look at. And so when you look at capital and how people want to spend it, you're choosing between multiple industries. I think THL is a great one, and it's also investing in people, since we employ so many people and help people move up from growing up with nothing to being very successful.
Yes, well, that's going to be another challenge with that kind of demand on servicing the guest. you have to train them,
yeah,
you know?
It's a huge,
and that's a huge challenge.
And it's got to be like the #1 challenge,
Yes.
as I mentioned, for CEOs is, first you got to find employees,
right.
then, you've got to train them. Historically, we've had very high turnover, then you got
right.
to retain them.
That's
Then
right.
you got to help them move up into management. At the same time, many other industries are going to be trying to
coming
poach
into
them.
it.
Yeah, so
Exactly
you have
right.
the banking industry can pay more, coming and trying to take them, and so it's a real challenge,
Yeah.
but it's so important. I mean, that's how you create that unique experience.
Yeah.
So.
So do you see a lot of people from U.S. moving to other countries to all this growth?
If you're a young, daring person and
Yeah.
you really want to make a name for yourself,
Right.
that would be the way to do it. And I think you can still do very well in the U.S., but one of my best friends, early on, about 20 years ago, went over to Tokyo and, taught English and spent a bunch of time in that part of the world, and now he's become a very successful investor. And
Wonderful.
he did that from, kind of taking a chance.
Yeah. So Adam, if somebody looking at all these wonderful stories that you're telling, and they say, I just want to be like you, what is your advice? How did you come up all the way, become a vice chairman, and from the start? So tell them, what is your advice for them?
Well, some of it's luck, right? I'm sure every successful business person has that behind them, even though nobody really likes to admit that. But I guess you create your own luck. And so I've always had a vision of what I wanted to do. And so I wanted to create this THL practice within Deloitte.
Oh, yes.
And so I spent,
Yes.
all my time getting to know people involved with the industry. If anyone was involved with any type of client, I got involved with that. I got involved with associations. I got to know mentors who were people working. And so you got to have a vision, and you have to go out and ask for what you want. One of the things that frustrates me with some of the younger people who work for me these days, I'll find out when they quit, and I'll be like, why'd you quit? And they're like, well, I didn't want to work on this. I wanted to work on retail. I'm like, well, did you tell somebody that? And they're like, no. I'm like, well, I can't figure out what you're thinking unless you ask for it. So I've always asked for things. And so sometimes people tell me no, but other times they've said yes. And, I think it shows you're eager. And so I really think you got to be in control of your own career and have a vision. And that's the way to do it. And plus, everyone says you got to work hard. So nobody hands you anything.
So, okay, so now last word, if you like to leave your wisdom, just a sentence or word, whatever, what would that be?
For me, I think having worked in this industry, my sentence would be, working in the THL industry, it's wonderful. I love it. It gets me excited. Being around people is, the thing that motivates me and gives me tons of energy.
Yeah. So love what you do.
Love what I do, particularly being around people.
Yeah.
So that's the best part.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, Adam, thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
being here today and sharing these wonderful stories. And we ran out of time, but I would love to continue some of the more marvelous stories. So would you come back?
I would love to.
Okay. Thank you so much for watching Hospitality Insider today with Adam Weissenberg at Deloitte Touche. If you'd like more information about Koni TV, please go to konitv.tv and contact us.
I'm Scott Divert, and I work for Carlson Residential Hotel Group, and you're watching.
You are watching.
You're watching.
Thank you for watching Koni TV.
Koni TV.
Koni TV. Koni TV.
The first ever internet TV station designed specifically for the hospitality industry. KoniTV.tv.